Greetings to all the real ones, alive in spirit and with an independent mind, endowed. All those who cannot come to terms with the madness convulsing around the world. These are not the spasms of a sick organism, not breathing failures, not a heart attack. These are post-mortem convulsions. A boar with a bullet in its heart can run 100 meters. This world is more resilient than any animal. The enormous flywheel continued to turn, even though more than 200 centuries of local time had passed. The world, by and large, does not deserve to be taken seriously because it died at the beginning of the 19th century. Most of the population managed to foresee helplessness, a sense of their own insignificance, the insignificance of their own life. Compared to the vastness of the imaginary silly cosmos, supposedly living by some principles of theoretical physics, which are worth nothing. And we, besides fantastic nonsense, there's nothing rational or reasonable in it at all. It's like a little ant contemplating the nature of the gardener, not even understanding that the gardener is merely a hired worker, and that the garden has a real owner. What is the life of an intelligent biped before eternity and infinity? That's what they said. Your life is just a flash that no one will notice. And according to the claims of idiots, there's no one to notice it. I mean the idiots who started to instill some form in the whole world. Let's say atheism. Materialistic. Others see their origin as the will of some bearded man from the clouds, who molded foolish slaves for himself and populated the earth with them, driving them out of paradise and giving them entirely under the control of the people he chose, who in reality never existed in the lands, for example, of Palestine, and who was created from many different upright walkers through a simple ideological element, false history, and terrifying rituals. But today we are not going to talk about that. I will continue from where we left off yesterday, reading the official nonsense from both sides. First I will read the nonsense from the suicides in Israel. Then the nonsense from the suicide in Tehran. I am reading. More than 50 Air Force fighters carried out a series of strikes on military targets in the territory of Tehran. A facility for producing centrifuges intended for uranium enrichment was attacked, the statement says. Guys, what? What's happening to you? And how can this even be taken seriously? What is a fighter jet? And what do ground targets have to do with it? And what is the range of this fighter jet? During the operation, key facilities of the Iranian military-industrial complex were struck, including factories producing components for ground-to-ground ballistic missiles used to shell Israel, as well as components of surface-to-air missile systems. Here is the raid of 50 fighters, Phantoms, on such a small object as a pig farm. Well, there are no pig farms in Iran, you see. Or on a small town can cause certain destruction, lead to death, to killings, to suffering, but no damage to a fortified area, a military object. Even a raid of 50, even 500 fighters cannot cause. A fighter has completely different functions. Now let's read the nonsense from the other side. Air Forces. In reality, the Iranian Air Force, during the attack on Israel on the night of Wednesday, June 18th, managed to establish full control over the enemy's airspace. This was reported by the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, which are elite units of the armed forces. What does complete control over the enemy's airspace mean? In 1941, there was full control of German aviation over enemy airspace, because all Soviet aviation was completely destroyed by mutual agreement between Berlin and Moscow at night on the 22nd of June by a raid of Germany's bomber aviation. Now information from Israel about the real situation from the point of view of amateurs who do not understand what they are seeing. The Israel Defense Forces. During the night, the Israel Defense Forces reported detecting rockets launched from the direction of Iran. Defensive systems are operational to intercept the threat according to the message. Local residents were urged to enter protected areas and remain there until further notice. Later, eyewitnesses published a video recording of Iranian missiles in the sky over Jerusalem. Iran's ballistic missiles, which Iran has never had in its life, also attacked the Israeli Ministry of Defense building and the Maua airbase. This is not reality. It's all ideology and morality. I'm telling you that yes, maybe they launch, but they launch at the airbase next to this mall, with some wasteland or with some industrial zone. The easiest way is to launch fireworks into the sky and then simulate their fall and explosion somewhere else. It's very easy to do because I have seen many aerial shows myself, those nighttime ones. For example, every year in Lyon, the Festival of Lights takes place, and there you will see all sorts of things. They will show you anything you want. I already showed you on fingers a couple of months ago that Israel doesn't have long-range bomber aircraft. By the way, no one has them. Russia no longer has them. The United States doesn't have them. On those same Phantoms or French Mirages, it doesn't matter what, from which, they can carry a small bomb load. They are completely unsuitable for attacks deep into Iran. Yes, they can attack a column of some militants in light vehicles. But to attack something deep within enemy territory, they are completely unsuitable. And generally completely useless. Dummies flying in the skies at night, launched by their own internal security service employees at their own cities, whether in Iran or in Kiev, in Russia, anywhere. This is all done by their own special services. All these special services are under the full control of the United States Central Intelligence Agency. Important considerations. There are entirely different factors that have significance which no one pays any attention to. What matters is what they broadcast to the general public. I mean the key players on the stage of this cheap farce. So the supreme leader of Iran, in response to Trump's call to surrender immediately, he declared that the Iranian people never surrender. Remember how they once sang, "A proud Variag does not surrender to the enemy." Interestingly, the peacemaker from a position of strength, he also says that he brings peace through force. United States President Donald Trump demanded that the leadership of Iran capitulate in the military confrontation with Israel, emphasizing that his patience is already running out. According to Trump, America is aware of where Iran's supreme leader, Ali Khamenei, is hiding, whom he called an easy target. The target, of course, was immediately outraged and made an address to the nation. It can be safely said that instead of a dove of peace with an olive branch in its beak, in Trump we have a predatory condor with bombs in its claws and missiles instead of flight feathers. However, if he drops these missiles, he will also plummet like a stone after them. What to expect? Interestingly, all the knowledgeable Western journalists, they all know something, but no one watches them anymore because people are fed up with the fact that they know everything. Earlier it was reported that Donald Trump vetoed the Israeli government's plan to assassinate Khamenei. He also expressed confidence in the ability of American representatives to play the role of mediator in resolving the conflict between Iran and Israel. Here is an interesting kind of mediation and mediator in the conflict who tells one of the parties, "You scoundrel, you must immediately lay down your arms, surrender at the mercy of the victor, assume a convenient position for him, so that he can do with you whatever he wants." This is the kind of peacemaker that has come, you see. What is really behind these dances on stage, where instead of a convertible with beautiful long-legged girls, completely unpleasant, completely unattractive in appearance Lira, the so-called group of 7 and other invited strange faces are dancing. The list of the play's participants is well known, but in the corner of the stage hides, for example, a sinister, terrifying spider named Baby Pooh, and above, like the Cheshire Cat, Uncle Chi smiles, and in the middle all the time performing solo steps is an Asian showman with a golden fringe, the great and terrible peacemaker, the irritator and rager and giver of foolish hopes named Trump Pam Pam. While the sought-after individual occasionally jumps onto the stage, no one can find him, remember? The police are looking, the militia is looking, the firefighters are searching there, but they still can't find him. So the internationally sought individual for detention under the tribunal's decision jumps out. There is a warrant. There is the leader of the whole, who is the main enemy of all Israelis. I emphasize that he is indeed the main enemy. He is the leader of everything, of the entire gang, who is simply a terrible enemy of everyone living in the territory of Israel. Notice how he sings in sync with the leaders of Iran. They have such a wonderful duet together. He calls on the citizens of Iran to leave Tehran and other places of their residence if they are located in the center of Iran's armed forces. Here is a completely similar statement, an address to the citizens of Israel from Iran. Both sides of the conflict intend, as we are told, to fight to the last living inhabitant, because they seek only complete victory over reason and life. In fact, the executioner is at work, and what I was telling you about 4 years or 5 years ago. Just listen for yourself. People who have intellect and know Iran, its people and history, will never speak to this nation in the language of threats, because the Iranian people are steadfast. The Americans must know that any military intervention by the USA will undoubtedly result in irreversible damage for them, said Khamenei. Khamenei noted that the attack by Israel occurred while the United States and Iran were in negotiations, and there were no signs of tougher military actions from the latter. That is, during the negotiations in the United States, they did not speak, threaten, or demand any surrender. What are these negotiations? They are lies and deception. The Supreme Leader did not rule out that Washington was involved in the Israeli attack, so the United States supports Israel. Naturally, the United States all the time supports and will always support Israel. Khamenei called their support for Israel an indication of their weakness and helplessness, and noted that Iran will continue to strike Israel as punishment. So Israel is on its knees in the corner with a bare backside, and Iran is hitting it very painfully with a large belt with a buckle. The Iranian-Israeli 12th Channel notes that all high-ranking officials, Israeli officials, suggest a close step towards making a decision on joining the cooperation against Iran. But what does this mean? ABC News notes on the night of June 18th that the next 24 to 28 hours will be decisive regarding the steps of the United States, including military ones. I cannot assume total madness in Trump, friends, who just a few days ago said he was close to making a deal with Iran. If the United States intervenes in the conflict officially, it will mean the end for the whole world. Under certain conditions. There are the following possible options. The first and very doubtful, which is very unlikely to happen, provoke and organize an uprising in Iran. Very democratically, they will cut off the heads of all the leaders. Remember the fate of Saddam and Gaddafi, and everyone will be as happy as in Libya. In this case, refugees will be few, about 20% of Iran's population. Israel of its old servants, who control Iran, because Iran is controlled by those who are overseen by the World Rabbinical Authority. So he will cut them down and appoint new leaders for the triumph of freedom and democracy. The second option, the most likely, is very bad for everyone. Those at the top, and by that I don't mean those sitting in Washington or in Tel Aviv, but those who are really at the top, there. With a dome, they will hit both Tehran and the nuclear facilities, and the three main cities of Israel. At first, it will turn out that Iran has banned weapons and means to deliver them. For instance, they will hit, for example, Tel Aviv, Haifa, or somewhere else. And then, of course, Trump, pam-pam, will have the right to say, and we will hit you back. In reality, understand that the red button for any president of a nuclear power is a fiction. No country in the world today has the right to possess functional heavy weaponry. About weapons. Weapons of mass destruction. Weapons of mass destruction are prohibited. Well, maybe somewhere. Something was hidden. This cannot be denied. But nevertheless, First, it will turn out that Iran, I say again, there are prohibited weapons and there are carriers for them. Then it will turn out that Israel also has everything. There is nothing there nor there, but it will turn out that there is. And of course, the finale will be a big and frightening strike by the United States. But before that, there might be an explosion somewhere in the United States. Preferably in those very blue states. Millions of innocent people are dying. Trump openly voiced the position on artificial intelligence. I don't want, he said. In peace, I want a real end. But here it is necessary to remember that this will differentiate reality. Tell me, why is the sky over Israel closed off from reality? So that no one escapes. The Israeli airline El Al has extended the cancellation of all regular flights, including flights by its subsidiary Sundor, at least until the 23rd of June. I was talking about such a date. It is important, the 22nd of June in general. This decision was a result of the Israeli government's order to close the airspace for civilian aircraft. In reality, there is no difference, whether it's the 10th of June or the 22nd of June. They just like certain dates. This measure is taken to ensure safety amid rising tensions in the region. Tell me, please, where will the residents of Israel run if the capital is destroyed? In the army chaos, the government destroyed, as they say, and the neighbors all decided at once to cut them a little. The same Palestinians from the Gaza Strip, for example, who is nearby?
The same Syrians.
Well, they decided to take advantage of the moment to do some cutting and shooting. But the most important thing is not the cutting and shooting, but to loot as much as possible. According to official statements, El Al, partial restoration of the flight program is possible only if the situation improves and security guarantees appear. Superb. First and foremost, the carrier is focused on organizing flights to return Israelis to their homeland. Amazing. I wonder how many Israelis would want to return home in this case. How many crazy people are there who would want to return? The people of Iran don't have much choice either. Azerbaijan and defenseless Armenia, which has no army to resist. And of course Turkey. Only those also want to flee because they are too close together with all the Arabs from the oil countries who are currently living very well. About the remnants of oil, gas, and other resources from this region, one might forget forever. I emphasize forget forever. The only thing that will remain is oil from Russia and other countries like Norway, Venezuela, Angola. It is notable what they demand from Iran. I remind you that the Iranian leadership is 100% appointed. All the leadership of Iran, like in all Arab states, is appointed in this case. Appointed 100% by the world rabbinate. And Trump knows this perfectly well. And according to Donald Trump, the demands for Iran's unconditional surrender mean that Tehran must give up and cease any resistance. The American leader allowed for strikes on Iranian military, nuclear, and military nuclear sites by the United States if the country does not comply with these conditions. He also stated that a lot of bad things, attention, may happen within the escalation in the Middle East. A lot of bad things, actually, is the only real goal of Trump. The countries of the Persian Gulf are already doomed. They have long been doomed. However, trouble could come to everyone, including Egypt, for example. Egypt If all the banking structures of this region collapse, then the shares of all companies will turn to garbage, as will their national currencies. How many days will the house of cards of the global financial system, and specifically the euro, last after that? Let me remind everyone that the doomsday plane of the United States arrived at the Andros base near Washington. That the United States evacuated its embassy from Israel. The last time this happened was after the September 11th, 2001 terrorist attack. I remind everyone that the act of September 11th, it was a classic foolish special service operation. It was so ridiculous that everything was completely obvious. Yet the whole world accepted and swallowed this bag of lousy lies. Of course, no Arabs hijacked any planes. In fact, September 11th, 2001, this is the day when the United States even formally ceased to resemble anything like a state. Friends, let me remind all of you that below in the description under the video, there are all the necessary links for you. Links to my paid channel, links to my email, where you can order my books, links to my personal website, where you can listen to these videos if you are in Russia without delay. There are also links there for providing financial support to me in my creative work. After the release of the video yesterday, and especially on Sunday, the situation even surprised me a little. In such a bad situation with providing help, probably never happened, not even in the year 2020. All right, what to do? Apparently, nobody actually. Their future doesn't concern them at all. Moreover, probably no one needs my work, with very few exceptions. Really, maybe it's 200 to 250 people. Well, maybe 300. Thank you all for your attention, and until the next meeting, which we will have on Sunday right here, on this channel. That's just how our week turned out. I really want to believe that this meeting will indeed actually take place.